Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about a role-playing book. But first, I'd like to talk about the fact that one of my subscribers, Alokov, now has his own YouTube channel up and running and is doing role-playing related videos. I will post a link in the doobly-doo if I can remember. So today I'm going to talk about Races of the Dragon. Another in the race book, though not one of the official books covering the core races. This race, of course, is obviously dedicated to people with a like for the dragon theme. I'm going to use the table of contents as my notes, as I have in the past. The first in this book is the Dragonborn. Now, the Dragonborn in the book are presented as a race of beings that a person of any race decides they want to become a dragon-like being. They undergo a ceremony, and at the end of the ceremony, they become a humanoid dragon type. They become the dragon subtype. They lose some of their abilities from their previous race, and they acquire some new ones. Not all of them. I actually think it's relatively confusing which ones are kept and which ones are lost. And now I can see a perfectly valid reason for this race existing within the context of a fantasy setting. So you're in the Forgotten Realms, you're born a half-elf, you don't like being a half-elf, you want to become something different, you undergo this procedure, you become a half-elf / dragon. Understand that completely. What I don't understand is why this race exists mechanically within the game of D&D. It just makes no sense to me. If you want to play a dragon-themed race, you have so many options already. Why do you need this race? That just complicates the race your character used to be. If you want to play a dragon-themed race, play one from first level. Or pick up the half-dragon template. Or play a Dragonfire Adept. Or a sorcerer with a dragon bloodline. Or a Cobalt with dragon feats. There are so many options you can take. I just don't understand why this race exists. I just can't imagine somebody's halfway through their character's career, they're at 10th level, and they say, hey, I want to be a dragon. I just don't get it. It just seems to be a very strange class. Race rather. I don't have any idea why it was ever created. And quite frankly, I don't much like it. I don't really see a use for it. So if you like dragons a lot and you think that your character at a level beyond first level would like to be one, maybe the Dragonborn is something for you, but it's not something I would ever be interested in as either a player or a GM. Next we have the Spellscale. The Spellscales are a fully fledged dragon subtype humanoid race. +2 charisma, -2 con, which means they are meant to be sorcerers and nothing else. I can't imagine anybody playing one of these races, this race in any class other than sorcerer, because it just makes no sense. A -2 con is just too dangerous, and anything that isn't going to be something you're going to be casting spells from way over there, because you get in contact with somebody, you're in big trouble. You mean if you don't put any points into that, you can have a con of 6. That's scary, folks. Other than that, the flavor on them is pretty good. They're shown as being very kind of flighty, they kind of take the things the way they come. They're very much into the moment, very present, very zen-like in that regard. Devilmaycare, if you will. Not a bad race at all if you're looking for something with a +2 to your charisma, and then this may be the race you're looking for. We have a whole chapter on Cobalt, which is cool because Cobalts, I think, are underplayed in the game. I really like Cobalts. I think they're a useful small race, and lots of useful information in this book about really amping up their reptilian dragon-like heritage. One thing I have done in the past is that I've had Cobalts be the sterile eggs laid by dragons. All dragons in my last campaign were hermaphrodites. They all could lay eggs. If they laid a sterile egg, the egg would open up and there would be a clutch of kobolds in there completely loyal to the dragon that laid it. If they wanted to lay a fertile egg, they would have to then breed with another dragon. So that's how you had different colored kobolds in the world, and they were fanatically loyal to their dragon masters. Then you have some Dragon-descended kind of things, like half-dragon, draconic character classes, things like that. So you have subcategories of dragons, different types of dragons in the game, like I mentioned earlier, which is useful, again, if you want to flesh out your dragon-like character. Some prestige classes, all, of course, which are dedicated to a dragon-like class. Well, some based on magic, some are divine. One here, the Singer of the Concord, which is all about, of course, being a dragon-themed bard. Then they have of course, a whole section of feats, because every one has to have feats. And this also has breath channeling feats. And I think there was some confusion at one point about whether these would be applicable to the Dragonfire Adept class. And I always thought they should be. It just made sense. The character class gets a breath weapon. It makes sense that feats that modify a breath weapon should apply, but that's just me. There's some straight up dragon feats, which is all about increasing your heritage even further than you already have, and becoming more dragon-like. But I still think that the half-dragon is the way to go with that myself. I would like to see a half-dragon with instead of a sorceral theme, maybe a psionic theme. I think a half-dragon based around the psychic warrior would be really cool. We have some racial substitution levels, which is, again, trading off different abilities in your class to get the dragon-like theme in that class. And I've always found them very interesting to read. I've always enjoyed the substitution levels, even if I didn't agree with them in particular. It generates ideas. And we have a spell list, spell descriptions, and psionic powers, which are all applicable to dragon characters. And a section on equipment, which is also kind of useful for dragons. So I would think that you'd have to have special armor made for winged things, and I believe that's addressed in here. Wondrous magic items, draconic grafts, where you're grafting onto your body parts from actual dragons. Though I'm not sure how dragons feel about that. Maybe it's all right, maybe it isn't. Maybe you're taking them off your slain foes. I don't know, but I've always liked grafts. Grafts are a cool thing in my book, and I like the fact that there's a fairly decent selection in here. Then there's a hideout little section in here, like a place to adventure seed, kind of an idea. Then in a chapter which is the campaigns of the dragon, which is dealing about having campaigns centered around characters which are dragon based, and it's a good chapter if that's important to your players or you as a GM. It's a mixed bag. There are things in this I like. In fact, the only thing I can really say that I didn't like was the whole concept of Dragonborn. I just don't see the purpose of the race. It just makes no sense to me. But the rest of the book is pretty decent, and I think it fits well with the other races of books. So if you enjoyed any of those, you may find some use out of this one as well.